Hello there, year 8, and welcome to your next geography lesson on the Middle East. Today we're going to be focusing on oil, but before we do that, let's do some retrieval practice. Let's get our brains back in gear with this topic. You've got 9 questions to answer. Please answer all of them, give them a go. If they're not right, well, fine, you gave it a go, and by doing that, you're much more likely to remember the correct answer in the future. So you've got 10 minutes at most to do that. Write down the answers, don't just think them. Get cracking now. Pause the video. Okay, so here are the answers for you. I'll let you read through them. Please make any corrections you need to. Please write the answers down, cross things out, rewrite them, whatever you need to do. That, again, is going to help you to remember these in more detail. You've got 5 minutes to do that. Pause the video. Okay, so let's get on with today's lesson. Oil in the Middle East. Please copy that as a title. Don't forget the capital M and E for Middle East. Do a date, read through the objectives, get the equipment you need ready. You've got 1 minute. Pause the video. Okay, so first of all, just in case you're not aware, what is oil? Well, we're not talking about the kind of oil you might put into a frying pan and cook some bacon or some fried veg or whatever it is you want to cook. We're talking here about that black stuff that we find under the ground that is, quite frankly, very, very useful, and we're going to come across some uses of it in a bit. For now, I'd like you to watch the video with the link on the screen and answer those questions in full sentences, please. Time to do that should be 10 minutes, maybe a couple more if you need, but spend no more than 15 on this. Get cracking and I'll do the answers on the next slide. Pause the video. Okay, so here are your answers. Oil is a thick black liquid which is made of hydrogen and carbon. You'll learn all about that in science in a few years' time, I imagine. Hydrocarbons is what this is called. Number 2, oil also contains sulfur, nitrogen and oxygen. Number 3, dead organisms are subjected to pressure from above and heat from below, which causes them to change to oil. So yes, oil is known as a fossil fuel. It's made from the fossils, the dead organisms that used to live millions of years ago. Number 4, oil is found in large underground reservoirs. You might be familiar with the word reservoir thinking of water, a big man-made lake. Well, this is a natural underground lake, if you will, of oil, found in caves underground, essentially. Number 5, geologists are the people who find oil. Number 6, oil is usually extracted by drilling a well and then pumping it up. And number 7, boats, pipelines, trains and trucks are used to transport the oil. So there we go. Please make any corrections you need to, and we'll move on. Pause now to do that. Okay, so a key term that was in the objectives, we're going to talk about the location of oil reserves. What do we mean by that? Well, oil reserves are the amount of oil left in the ground somewhere. So they are reserves of oil, places where oil is reserved. Different ways of saying the same thing, but that's all it means. So copy that down, leave a line from the last questions, copy that down as a key term, oil reserves. Feel free to underline it like I have, or highlight it, or write it in a different color, something to make it pop out and stand out. Pause now to write that. Okay, so let's talk about these oil reserves. This map shows proven oil reserves. This is oil that has been found around the world. It does not show where oil could be. It also shows countries that have found the oil. It doesn't show where the oil is. So, for example, the UK and Norway, which are both coloured in that sort of lighter creamy colour, showing that they have between 1,000 to 10,000 million barrels. They are sharing oil that is found in the North Sea, that bit of water between them. There's not actually any on the land there. So just be aware of those things. But we've got a task for you coming up, looking carefully at this map. So just for the moment, have a look at the key, have a little look at generally the patterns shown on the map, and we'll move on to the task. Okay, so what I've done now actually is I've just taken the text away. So what you can do is check the time, have a look at the time on the video, and at this point you're gonna need to come back to this in a minute and kind of flick between this and some questions. If I put the questions and the map on the same slide, it's going to make the map way too small and the questions way too small. So this is here for you to need it, and here are the questions. So copy and complete using the map on that last slide. Anywhere where there's a gap, you need to fill in the answers. I've tried generally to make it clear. So, for example, in the first first paragraph, the 2 countries with the largest proven oil reserves. So we want country names there. In the second paragraph, again, we're after countries. In the third one, the what is the region. So we're looking for a region name with the most countries with proven oil reserves. And finally, the last one, the continent of. So be really careful here about countries, a region and a continent for the last one. Anyway, copy that out, filling in the gaps using the map to help you. Pause now. Okay, so here are your answers. The two countries with the largest proven oil reserves are Saudi Arabia in the Middle East and Venezuela in South America. Canada in North America and Iran and Iraq in the Middle East have the second largest amounts of proven oil reserves. The Middle East is the region with the most countries with proven oil reserves of about 50,000 million barrels. That's a lot of barrels. Finally, the continent of Europe has the least amount of countries with proven oil reserves. So we've got a Middle Eastern link there, a very strong one, with Saudi Arabia and the Middle East as a whole being the region with the most oil, but also something we learn about ourselves and about the continent we're part of, which is actually we rely on all those other continents for oil because we do not have very much here. Okay, with that in mind, let's move on. Okay, so copy the subtitle, what is oil used for? Watch the video and simply list as many uses of oil as you can. You're going to need to pause the video as you go. You might need to rewind bits. And I've given you the first two that are going to come up. And this is how you're going to list them. You're going to just bullet point them underneath that title. So the first one is for hot water and the second one is for heating homes. It's quite a long list, so get going. Pause as often as you need to. Spend no more than 10 minutes on this and we'll have a look at the full list in a second. Pause now. Okay, so here's my list. My question to you is, did I miss any? There's every possibility there might have been one or two I missed out. So there we go. Have a little look through. Let me know if I have missed any out. But you can see oil is used in a vast range of things, from burning it to produce energy and heat, through to anything with any form of plastic in it. Any form of fuel is likely to have oil in it. And so on and so on. It's a very, very long list here. And I think there's significantly more than just in this list as well. I think there's a number of other things that do contain oil that they didn't mention in this video. So oil, very, very useful, a very useful material. If there's any here that you've missed, please add them on now. Pause the video. So oil, really, really, really useful, but comes with some significant challenges. And there's a lot of people around who really don't like oil, despite how useful it is, think that we'd be better off not using it. So copy the subtitle, what are the challenges of using oil? Pause and do that. Okay, so my tasks for you, I'm going to give you a few challenges. I'm going to ask you to copy the challenge itself. So here you're going to write, when it burns, it produces carbon dioxide. Scientists say this is the main cause of climate change. And then you're going to draw a picture to illustrate the challenge. Now, here's my version for this one to give you the idea of something you could do. So I would draw some fire to show the burning of the oil. I would then draw an arrow to show this leads to carbon dioxide in a sort of cloud. You can't literally see it in a cloud like that. It's a gas though, so it is representing that. And then a third arrow leading to what is a little bar chart there with the bars getting higher and higher and higher and a little thermometer to illustrate heat. So that's my way of doing that. When you burn, it produces carbon dioxide, which leads to climate change and global warming. So there's mine. You can by all means copy that, or if you think you can do a different or better job, go for it. You go for it. It doesn't matter. Draw in pencil, please. Pause this slide and do this one. And it's the same task for the next couple of slides. So pause here. So to remind you, copy, it produces many other harmful gases when burnt, for example, sulfur dioxide, which causes acid rain, and then draw me a picture to illustrate this challenge. Next one, oil spills from oil platforms, tankers and pipelines harm the environment. Copy that down and draw a picture to illustrate this challenge. And a final one, some oil producing countries are politically unstable. The definition for that is at the bottom, when a government cannot do their job due to things like war or corruption. So some oil producing countries are politically unstable, so we can't be sure of a consistent supply. And if you think about Europe and what you've learned from the map, that's really important for us because we don't produce very much oil. So we rely on other countries to supply us. And if that is not a consistent supply, then there's possible problems. problems with our ability to get hold of and make all of those different things you learned about earlier. Anyway, copy that sentence, draw a picture to illustrate it. Okay, so that's the lesson. We've looked at the location of oil reserves, we've looked at the use of oil and some of the challenges. So 5 statements on the board. I'd like you to write every sentence out truthfully. If there's any statements there that are false, and yes, there are some, you need to rewrite them. You need to change a word or change a few words or add a word or take away a word to make it true. So I want 5 true statements in your book. And as a challenge, if you've got a bit of time, add a bit more detail to each sentence. For example, oil can harm the environment. Well, can you give me a specific example or a way it might harm it? Oil is used in transport. Can you give some examples? Over to you. Pause the video now. So here we go. Here are the answers. The Middle East has the most countries with proven oil reserves in the world. That was incorrect. And then you can see I've added on, meaning that a lot of wealth can be made in this region. There's one way that you could elaborate this a bit further. You may have written something else. It doesn't have to be exactly that. But if you're unsure of what to write, well, maybe you could add that on now. Second one, oil can harm the environment. Absolutely. I've added some examples through oil spills, which can kill animals and plants in the water and on the coast. Oil is used in transport for number 3. That's true, such as in petrol for cars and aviation fuel for aeroplanes. Number 4, sulfur dioxide does not cause rain. Rain is caused by a number of other things, which you learned about earlier this year. The idea of convectional rainfall or relief rainfall, for example. So sulfur dioxide can cause acid rain, which can kill plants and animals if it's extreme. And then finally, Saudi Arabia in the Middle East has one of the largest amounts of oil reserves in the world, not Yemen, which means that they can make lots of money from it, from selling it even, raising their GDP. And there's a nice link back to the key term of GDP that we learned about in a previous lesson. So there we go. If you made any errors there, please correct them. If you have time to add on some of those elaborations, do so if you've still got some time left in this hour. Otherwise, that is a nice little reflection on this lesson, all about oil. That's it. Take care. I'll speak to you soon. Goodbye.